Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're working within the Consolidated Community Living or Person/Family Directed Support waivers, you already know the deal. Providing excellent care, that's really only half the job. The other half is proving it on paper. So today we're taking a dense 75-page bureaucratic compliance document and turning it into an actionable survival guide for Pennsylvania ODP service providers.
Our main focus today is diving into this official guidance from the Department of Human Services. Mastering Bulletin 0022-03 is absolutely crucial. It's the key to making sure you get paid and, just as importantly, stay compliant. Think of this document as your ultimate technical rulebook for claim and service documentation. We're talking everything from residential habilitation and shift nursing to small group employment and behavioral support. It covers the whole shebang.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, substantiating your service claims. Second, the anatomy of a service note. Third, the checklist dilemma. Fourth, handling multiple staff scenarios. And finally, mastering your billing units. Let's jump right in.
Starting with Section 1, substantiating your service claims, and taking a hard look at the stakes of non-compliance.
Because here is the reality check. The Department of Human Services uses your documentation to verify that the services you provide actually match the individual support plan. Your accounting records have to be backed up by appropriate source documentation, or your claims will simply be denied. Period. If a record is incomplete, the claim is suddenly ineligible for federal financial participation, meaning your federal Medicaid funding literally vanishes. You absolutely must maintain these records and have them audit-ready at all times.
All right, Section 2, anatomy of a service note. This is all about building your core weapon.
The service note is your primary tool, and the golden rule here is pretty strict. It has to be completed on the exact same day the services are rendered, no exceptions. Now, a brand new service note gets triggered every time a continuous span is broken. If you're billing in 15-minute or hour units, a continuous span is defined as a service provided by the same staff person without stopping. So, if your staff member takes a break and restarts later, or if someone else takes over their shift, boom, you need a brand new service note.
Think of your service note as having vital organs. If you miss even one of these, your claim is a goner in an audit. You've got to include the provider's Master Provider Index, or MPI, the individual's Master Client Index number, the exact date of service, the date the note itself was completed, and a signature. And here's the kicker, if you are billing in 15-minute or hour intervals, you also need exact start and end times documented to prove the exact number of units you delivered.
Moving on to Section 3, the checklist dilemma, and how we can use checklists correctly.
Look, we all know checklists are incredibly tempting because they save so much time, right? But man, they can be a massive trap. You will fail an audit if you just check off some broad goal like improve social skills without explaining the actual activity that happened. An acceptable checklist has to list full or at least abbreviated descriptions of the actions taken directly from the service definition, like checking a box for assisting with the housing application process. That's a concrete, acceptable action. But if you just list the name of the service or throw in activities that aren't even compensable, that's not going to fly.
Okay, Section 4, handling multiple staff scenarios. Let's simplify some of this complex team documentation.
So what happens when multiple staff members are delivering services to the exact same person at the exact same time? Maybe it's a complex residential setup or an enhanced level of community participation support. You might assume everyone needs to write a redundant note, but actually you don't. You've got options to streamline this. You can use a single combined document with multiple entries from the different staff members. Or, if you're in a facility-based setting, a supervisor who is present the whole time can just complete one comprehensive note based on direct observation. Whichever route you go, just make sure the documentation verifies the specific staff ratio that was used.
Finally, Section 5, mastering your billing units. This is the final destination for getting those claims approved.
At the end of the day, all of this flawless documentation leads to one goal: calculating your billing units accurately. The difference between an approved claim and a denied one usually comes down to how you record time. If you're billing 15-minute intervals, you absolutely must record the exact start and end times. On the flip side, day units for residential services just require documentation of an 8-hour total. For those 15-minute units, the full 15 minutes doesn't even have to be consecutive, but it does have to happen on the same calendar day. For day units, a day means a minimum of 8 hours of non-continuous care within a 24-hour period, and you actually don't need exact start and end times in the note itself. Now, beyond just time-based billing, the bulletin spells out several other specific units. We've got the 15-minute and hour units, plus that day unit with its 8-hour minimum. But you also need to know about vendor units, which are tied directly to the actual cost of a purchased good, like remote support equipment or assistive tech. Then there's the per-mile unit, which requires a detailed mileage log, pickup address, destination, purpose, and a driver's signature. And lastly, the per-trip unit, specifically for transportation to a waiver service or integrated employment, which requires its own precise trip log.
So, by mastering the true anatomy of the service note, dodging those checklist traps, and locking down your exact billing units, you really have to ask yourself, are you ready to implement these rules today and secure your funding? Take a look at your current service notes. Do they perfectly describe the activities rendered? Do they clearly document all the required elements from Bulletin 002203? Because if they don't, it is time to upgrade your process. In the unforgiving world of claim and service documentation, if it isn't in the note, well, it simply didn't happen.